The theater world was rocked months ago when the coronavirus pandemic suspended all live events indefinitely. But for Baldwin Wallace University, the show must go on. Hi, I'm Sarah McCord, a student at Baldwin Wallace, and I'm here to take you behind the scenes of the virtual production of Spring Awakening. And trust me, this isn't your typical Zoom performance. We're going to talk with members of the cast and creative team to learn all about what it took to put together this virtual production. So welcome to the making of Awakening. Today I talk with Greg Daniels, the choreographer for this production of Spring Awakening. Writing compelling dance numbers that also keep actors socially distant is a unique challenge, so keep listening to learn more about choreography in the COVID precaution era. When did you begin writing the choreography for this production of Spring Awakening?
We knew what we were doing and I had started working on it, but then of course had to kind of change, knowing that we weren't going to be able to do it at all live, because it's a very different medium between going from stage to the screen, because you've got to think of camera angles and what you want to see through the lens and different camera angles that can happen.
Where did you find inspiration for the choreography?
Well, a lot of this, there's a lot of, because of the show, and it's a lot of teenage angst, coming of age, and, the awareness of your body, and not, and everybody, if we remember back when we were going through that, hormones are raging and mood swings were up and down and all over the place. And so taking a lot of that, feelings of what, kids are going through it, and, finding that kind of the grit of it all, and the inner feelings of it. Yeah.
How did you adapt the choreography to adhere to social distancing guidelines?
We had to adapt because originally there was stuff that we wanted people to be able to touch. And so obviously then we couldn't do that. And so then it was a matter of insinuating there was a person that was there, or that you were touching a person. We had to definitely keep it apart. And then of course, all the choreography was done with a mask on. They had recorded the vocals earlier, but so all of it was all done with a mask. So, you had to really be aware, because our lower half of our face is so prevalent on stage, and what emotions we're having, all we could see are eyes. So it was really important for me to make them understand that their eyes kind of had to be speaking.
How are you able to safely teach the choreography to the actors?
We taught it one night on Zoom. I would go to the studio and I would teach it on Zoom. Then, which is very difficult because you're not all in the same room. Nobody knows where everybody's going. It was just basically teaching the steps, so they had that. And then the next night we would rehearse each cast individually at St. Adelbert's, where I could, again, it was almost the size of what the stage was, so that we could make sure that there was distance between everybody and show them where they had to go and how the step got them to that position and everything else. And then the next night we would go in and film it. So it wasn't, I had to really emphasize, it's not like our normal process where you've got weeks to kind of get the choreography. You've got to really go home and do it, because we're going to shoot it tomorrow and then we're moving on to because we only had the main stage, which we turned into a sound stage, for 1 month. So we had to get everything done that we needed to do on that stage in 1 month. So it was a really, really tight schedule.
What was the most challenging part of this process? What was the most rewarding?
The challenge, of course, has been the whole COVID aspect. Even when we go to film, it's 30 minutes to block it. Then we've got to leave the space for 30 minutes and then come back, and we only got 30 minutes to shoot, because then we've got to clear the space so the next cast can come in. So there's been challenges just all the way around of, teaching it on Zoom. Name the challenges, we were probably faced with all of them, So the rewarding part about this is that, we're probably one of the only schools. I'm not going to say the only, because I don't have that fact, but one of the only schools in the country that's actually producing a musical. Yes, a couple have produced a song. Their senior class has done a song. This is a full-length musical that's been produced. So I think that's what's really rewarding. And and we can't really call it a film because that's just because of the rights issue. So we have to call it a virtual production. But for all intents and purposes, it was like a film. And I've worked on two other films, and so it was kind of nice to go back to that world a little bit. I think the rewarding part is just knowing that we're producing something that everybody's kind of said was impossible to do.
What was your experience collaborating with other creative team members during this process?
Well, I mean, obviously with the choreographer, the first person you're going to talk with is the director. So of course, Vicky and I met, to discuss, you know, the concept of the show, how we were doing it, which of course was one way when we started and a totally different way by the time we finished. So we were always in contact of what we were looking for in these numbers and how it was telling the story. Um, as for like me, that for this part, we didn't really do a lot of set stuff because we were on the stage. So, I mean, I had chairs for one number. I think it was the only thing I had for, a number. So for me, most of my collaboration was with, Vicky to how we were going to tell this story. And then, of course, then when we were filming, Dave, our lighting designer, was there and, creating the mood of what we needed for the piece. But a lot of that probably wasn't discussed beforehand with him until we got into the space because we didn't go, we hung a plot, but we didn't go and do a special plot like we would do for an actual musical. So that we had to like adjust what we had to make it all work. But most of the collaboration, I think, was done with Vicky.
What was it like collaborating with the actors throughout this production?
They've been great. I mean, this was all very new to them. I mean, I mean, I taught on Zoom all summer long, so I was kind of used to it. They're getting used to it, some of them, because they've had to do it in classes, but like most of our dance classes are in person now. So for them to learn it over Zoom, because there is a lag in the sound in Zoom, which is really difficult because, I'm seeing it, so it looks like it's behind the music, but I know they're actually right. So that's why it was always good to have that second day of rehearsal where we were in the room together, hearing the music, all hearing it at the same time, all hearing it the same way, as opposed to knowing that lag. But they have been really, really good and really understanding and collaborative to make this all happen. And, there were times that things changed at the last second, like, okay, we need to film it this way or we need to go this direction. And they were all very adaptive.
Do you think this unique production process has helped students learn new skills and build their craft?
Absolutely, because I mean, some of them are going to go into film and TV, so getting used to. Now we were very, very, again, because of COVID and everything else, very conscientious of their time. So to come in for a night, and if you were one cast, you were done in an hour and a half, which, we would normally be there for the 3.5 hours for the night, but because we had to so we were very efficient. Now, once they're in the real world and doing their thing, I mean, they could be on the set all day long filming, it could be one scene depending on how complex it is. So I think it's good for them to realize that you have to keep, they had to do it like some 5, 6 times, in that half hour, which is nothing in reality, but we couldn't be like, okay, take a 10 minute and then we'll come back and do it because we had to be out of there in a half. So it was like, catch your breath. All right, we're going to do it again. And people were sweating. And so, we tried to make sure that we could, dry them off a little bit because again, if you were doing a real movie and a real schedule like that, you could take the time, people, take a break, get something to drink, then we're going to come back and do it again. But now, with our schedule, because of COVID, there was no way to do that.
What was the most challenging number to choreograph?
Probably totally fucked. It
That's
really
kind of what
was.
I would have guessed.
Yeah, it was probably the hardest thing. Not hard, it was just very much different than if we were doing it all on the stage. So it was just having to conceive that and how it was going to work to be able to be cut into different things.
Do you want to learn more about this production of Spring Awakening? Then join us November 16th, 5:30 Eastern Standard Time for a free live Zoom event where we talk to current BWMT students and BWMT alumnus Zach Adkins for the Those You've Known series, Episode 3. Check out conversation.bw.edu for more information.